The universe has rules: physics, causality, the conservation of energy, laws written into the fabric of reality itself. But when gamma radiation collides with experimental dimensional technology during a freak storm over Stark Tower, those rules become suggestions. Dr. Bruce Banner had exactly 3 seconds to realize the portal wasn't closing before it swallowed him whole, red velvet suit and all. He materialized above a desert planet under twin suns. The cargo speeder he'd somehow commandeered in the dimensional tunnel sputtering and dying as it dropped toward ochre sands. The crash landing sent up a plume of dust visible for kilometers. And as Banner crawled from the wreckage, adjusting the ridiculous Santa hat that had somehow survived intact, he became acutely aware of 3 facts. His gamma readings were still functional. This was definitely not Earth. And the white-armored soldiers marching toward his position were carrying weapons he didn't recognize. Stormtroopers. The word came to him from nowhere, like instinctive knowledge. This wasn't just another dimension. This was a completely different universe with its own history, conflicts, and rules. And he was standing in the middle of what looked like a military occupation zone, wearing a red velvet suit trimmed with white fur. "Halt!" The lead trooper's voice crackled through a helmet vocoder. "Identify yourself and your cargo." Banner raised his hand slowly, forcing his heart rate down through practiced breathing. The portable gamma detector hidden in his gift sack was screaming. There were massive energy signatures somewhere on this planet. The same anomalous readings that had triggered the dimensional breach. That was his mission: locate the source, assess the threat to Earth's dimensional stability, and report back, assuming he could find a way home. "Ho, ho, ho," Banner said, his voice strained but maintaining the jovial tone he'd been practicing for the Stark Industries charity event. "Just a simple traveler, friends. Santa Claus, at your service. My sleigh had some technical difficulties." The stormtroopers exchanged glances. One leveled what Banner's mind immediately categorized as an energy weapon, directed plasma, possibly particle-based, directly at his chest. "Santa Claus? That's not in any Imperial database. You're coming with us for questioning." Banner's pulse quickened. Interrogation meant stress. Stress meant the other guy. And the Hulk emerging in an unknown universe with unknown hostiles would compromise everything. He needed to maintain cover, gather intel, and stay calm. "I assure you I'm just a gift giver," Banner continued, patting his sack. Inside, alongside the detector, were actual wrapped presents, props for the charity event that now served as his cover. "I bring joy to children across well, I suppose across dimensions is more accurate now. Perhaps your commanding officer has children. I'd be happy to." Silence. The trooper grabbed Banner's arm, and he felt the cold press of armor against his skin. Around them, the settlement came into view. Ramshackle buildings clustered together. Strange alien species moving through dusty streets and hovering droids that hummed with unfamiliar technology. A massive sail barge dominated the northern horizon, and Banner's scientific mind raced to catalog everything. Repulsor lift technology, faster than light capability, evident from the Star Destroyers hanging in low orbit. Energy weapons instead of ballistics. This civilization was advanced, dangerous, and currently treating him as a threat. The gamma detector's readings intensified as they marched him toward what appeared to be an Imperial garrison. Whatever had torn a hole between universes was close, maybe inside that very facility. But Banner couldn't investigate while in custody. He needed leverage, needed to understand the political landscape, needed to... A commotion erupted ahead. 3 hulking aliens, Gamorreans, his mind supplied helpfully, were harassing a smaller figure in robes. One of them shoved the robed individual into the sand, drawing a vibro-axe that hummed with kinetic energy. "Please," the robed figure pleaded. "I'm just trying to reach Mos Eisley. I have credits." "Your credits are worthless, Jedi scum," the Gamorrean snarled. "Jabba's orders. Any Force users get delivered to his palace. Alive, if possible." Banner felt his heart rate spike. Force users. Jedi. These terms meant something in this universe, something significant. And watching 3 armed thugs corner an unarmed person triggered something primal in his chest. A familiar heat, a rising pressure. No, not here, not now. The stormtroopers holding him barely reacted, clearly used to such violence. One even chuckled. "Hutts cleaning up Jedi remnants. Makes our job easier." The Gamorrean raised his weapon. The robed figure closed their eyes, accepting fate. And Bruce Banner felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the gamma radiation in his cells beginning to excite, responding to his anger. His hands clenched into fists. The Santa suit felt suddenly tight. The twin suns seemed to burn hotter. "Stop," Banner said quietly, his voice dropping an octave. The stormtrooper holding him tightened his grip. "Shut up, alien. This isn't your—" "I said stop." Green began to creep up Banner's neck. The stormtroopers noticed too late. Their weapons came up, but Banner was already changing, his body expanding, muscles rippling with gamma-powered fury. The red velvet suit tore at the seams, the Santa hat flying off as his skull enlarged, his skin shifting from pale to emerald. The last thing Bruce Banner thought before the Hulk took over was, so much for staying undercover. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The Hulk rose to his full height, over 8 feet of pure gamma-powered muscle, fists like wrecking balls, eyes blazing with green fire. The stormtroopers stumbled backward, their training inadequate for something this impossible. One fired his blaster. The bolt struck Hulk's chest and dissipated harmlessly, absorbed by skin that had survived nuclear explosions. Hulk's roar shook the settlement. It echoed across Tatooine's wastes, a sound of pure rage that had never before been heard in this galaxy far, far away. The Gamorreans froze. The robed Jedi stared in shock. And somewhere in orbit, Imperial sensors began registering an energy signature unlike anything in their databases. A gamma radiation spike that would soon draw attention from forces far more dangerous than stormtroopers. Bruce Banner's undercover mission had just become infinitely more complicated. The Hulk didn't understand missions or cover identities. He understood threats, and right now, the white-armored soldiers pointing weapons at him qualified. The first stormtrooper's blaster bolt had felt like an insect bite. Annoying, but ultimately harmless. The second volley, a coordinated barrage from 5 troopers, didn't even register. Hulk smashed tiny metal men. One massive green fist swung in a wide arc, catching 2 stormtroopers and sending them flying across the street. They impacted a moisture evaporator with a crunch of collapsing armor, the device exploding in a shower of sparks and steam. The other troopers scattered, their disciplined formation breaking down in the face of something their training had never prepared them for. The Gamorreans, to their credit, didn't run. The largest one charged with his vibro axe raised high, the weapon's kinetic field humming. He brought it down on Hulk's shoulder with enough force to cleave through durasteel. The blade shattered on impact. Hulk grabbed the Gamorrean by his armor and hurled him skyward. The alien scream Dopplered away as he arced over the settlement's perimeter wall, disappearing into the desert. The remaining two exchanged glances, then wisely chose discretion over valor, fleeing toward the massive sail barge in the distance. Hulk turned to the robed figure still crouched in the sand. The Jedi, a young Twi'lek woman with green skin and intelligent eyes, stared up at him with an expression somewhere between terror and awe. Her hand was outstretched, fingers trembling as if she'd been about to use some invisible force before realizing it was unnecessary. "You saved me," she whispered. "What are you?" Hulk's rage began to ebb slightly, confusion replacing anger. The small person wasn't threatening him, wasn't attacking. Banner's consciousness stirred somewhere in the back of their shared mind, recognizing an opportunity even through the green haze. "Hulk, help." The words came slowly, each one an effort. "Tiny people bat. You okay?" The Twi'lek nodded slowly, rising to her feet. She dusted off her robes, never taking her eyes off him. "I'm Nira. I was a Padawan before the Empire." Her voice carried old pain. "The Force led me here. Said I'd find an ally. I didn't expect." She gestured at his massive frame. Around them, the settlement had gone deathly quiet. Aliens of a dozen species peered from windows and doorways, witnessing something unprecedented. A Rhodian merchant clutched his wares. A protocol droid's photoreceptors flickered in confusion. In the distance, sirens wailed as more Imperial forces mobilized. Hulk's enhanced hearing caught the whine of approaching speeders, the barked orders of officers, the charging of heavy weapons. Too many threats, too many tiny metal men. The anger started building again, muscles tensing for another confrontation. "Wait!" Nira stepped forward, her hand raised. "I can feel your struggle. There's two of you, aren't there?" A consciousness divided. Her Force sensitivity picked up something even she couldn't fully comprehend. The fracture between Banner and Hulk, a duality that existed beyond mere psychology. "You need to hide. The Empire won't stop coming." "Hulk, no hide." The roar rattled windows. "Hulk, strongest there is." "I believe you," Nira said quickly, her voice soothing. "But your friend, the one inside, he needs something here. I can sense it, a mission, a purpose." She was improvising, but her Jedi training taught her to trust instinct. "If you destroy everything, he can't complete it." Something in her words reached Banner's buried consciousness. Purpose. Mission. The gamma detector, now crushed in the transformation, had pinpointed the source. An Imperial facility 15 kilometers north. The dimensional breach signature was coming from there, growing stronger by the hour. If it destabilized further, it could consume this entire planet, possibly create a chain reaction that would threaten Earth's dimension. He had to investigate, had to stop it. And he couldn't do that as the Hulk. The transformation was agony in reverse. Green skin fading to pink, muscles contracting, height diminishing. Banner collapsed into the sand, gasping, wearing nothing but the shredded remains of his Santa pants. The desert heat immediately began cooking his exposed skin. "Okay," he managed, his voice hoarse. "That went poorly." Nira stared at the transformation with wide eyes. "By the Force. You can control it?" Control is a strong word. Banner accepted the outer robe she offered, wrapping it around himself. His scientific mind was already analyzing. The transformation had taken less energy here, felt almost easier. Was gamma radiation more stable in this universe? Or was something about this planet's atmosphere facilitating the change? More like negotiation. And right now, We need to negotiate our way out of here before the Empire arrives in force. As if summoned by his words, 4 Imperial speeder bikes roared into the settlement's main thoroughfare. Scout troopers astride them. Behind them, a larger troop transport settled on repulsor lifts, its boarding ramp descending to disgorge a full squad of stormtroopers led by an officer in a gray uniform. "Attention, alien fugitive!" The officer's voice boomed through an amplifier. "You are hereby detained under Imperial Code 447 Alpha. Surrender immediately or face immediate execution." Banner's heart rate spiked. Not good. Not good at all. "I have a ship," Nira whispered urgently. "Hidden in a canyon 2 kilometers east. If we can reach it, can't." Banner pulled the ruined gamma detector from his sack, its display cracked but still functional. "There's an energy source at the Imperial facility north of here. It's tearing holes between dimensions. If it's not contained, this whole planet could be pulled into a dimensional cascade. Millions dead, possibly billions." Nira's face paled. "You're telling me there's something worse than the Empire here?" "Much worse." Banner watched the stormtroopers fan out, surrounding their position. "And I'm the only one who might understand it enough to stop it. Which means I need to get inside that facility, maintain my cover story somehow, and pray the other guy doesn't come out again until I've..." A blaster bolt struck the sand between them. Warning shot. "Last chance, fugitive." Banner stood slowly, hands raised, his mind racing through scenarios. He could feel Hulk stirring at the back of their consciousness, eager to emerge, to smash, to protect. But another transformation would cement his status as a monster, make any infiltration impossible, and waste precious time while the dimensional breach grew. He needed a different approach. Something that would make the Empire see him as useful rather than threatening. "I surrender," Banner called out. Then, lowered to Nira. "Follow my lead. Tell them you captured me. Claim the bounty. It'll get you into Imperial records, give you legitimacy, and keep you off their kill list. I can't just trust me. I've dealt with worse than space fascists." "Probably." Banner didn't sound convinced, even to himself. "Just, if this goes wrong and the green guy comes out, run. Don't look back." Nira's hand went to the lightsaber hidden beneath her robes, then withdrew. She'd chosen to trust him once already. The Force, quiet but present, whispered that this strange, divided being was exactly where he needed to be. The stormtroopers closed in, binders ready. Banner allowed himself to be restrained, noting the energy output of their weapons, the communication protocols between soldiers, the technology level of their armor. Everything was data. The Imperial garrison was exactly what Banner expected from a fascist military occupation. Cold, efficient, and designed to intimidate. They processed him through security with the casual brutality of an organization that had perfected dehumanization. Biometric scans, blood samples, genetic analysis. Every procedure made Banner's heart rate spike, and every spike brought him closer to a transformation he couldn't afford. Species, unknown. Origin, unknown. Threat assessment, moderate. The security droid's monotone made Banner simultaneously more human and less significant. Recommend Interrogation Protocol 7 with neural scanner backup. Protocol 7 turned out to involve a detention cell 2 meters by 3 meters, a single glow panel for light, and absolutely nothing else. Banner sat on the Duracrete floor, back against the wall, and tried to meditate. Tried to keep his breathing steady. Tried not to think about how the gamma detector's last reading had shown the dimensional breach expanding at an exponential rate. He had maybe 18 hours before it reached critical mass. Through the walls, he could hear other prisoners. Someone sobbing, someone screaming. The wet sound of an interrogation droid doing its work. Each sound was a reminder that suffering was currency here, that compassion was weakness, that the Empire ruled through fear and pain. Banner's fingers clenched. Green briefly flickered across his knuckles before he forced it down. Not yet. Not yet. The cell door hissed open 6 hours later. The officer from the settlement entered, flanked by 2 stormtroopers and followed by someone new. A woman in a black uniform with insignia Banner didn't recognize. Imperial intelligence, if he had to guess. Her face was sharp, calculating, and her eyes dissected him with scientific precision. "Dr. Bruce Banner?" she said, and Banner's blood ran cold. They knew. Somehow, they knew. 7 PhDs, expert in nuclear physics, gamma radiation, and, according to our xenoanthropology division's best guess, dimensional mechanics. Though that last one is speculation based on the energy signature you arrived with. Banner kept his expression neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please." She pulled up a holo projection from her datapad. Banner watched himself transform in the settlement square, watched the Hulk destroy stormtroopers, watched the rampage from 3 different angles. "We have footage. Genetic analysis confirms you undergo a radical physiological transformation involving cellular restructuring and massive energy output. You're either the most sophisticated bioweapon we've ever encountered, or you're something else entirely." She leaned closer, and Banner could smell her perfume. Something floral, incongruous with the sterile cruelty of her profession. "The question is, which one makes you more valuable to the Empire?" Banner met her gaze. This was the moment, the choice that would determine everything. He could resist, stay silent, and eventually they'd torture him until the Hulk emerged and destroyed half the garrison. Or he could gamble everything on a dangerous bluff. "Neither," Banner said quietly. "I'm the solution to your problem in Facility 226 North." The intelligence officer's eyebrow raised a millimeter. "We don't have a problem at 226 North. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet." Banner stood slowly, the stormtroopers' weapons tracking him. "There's a dimensional breach in your research laboratory, probably caused by some artifact or technology you found and didn't understand. It's expanding at an exponential rate, currently doubling every 14 hours. In less than a day, it'll consume this entire planet. In 2 days, this whole sector." The officer's expression didn't change, but Banner caught the flicker in her eyes. Concern or recognition. "How could you possibly know about 226 North?" "Because the breach is what pulled me here." Banner gestured at himself. "I'm from another dimension, another universe entirely. And I've seen what happens when dimensional barriers collapse. It's not pretty. Reality doesn't just tear, it inverts, folds, consumes. Everyone within the affected radius is either erased or scattered across the multiverse." The officer studied him for a long moment. Then she tapped her datapad, pulling up classified files. Banner caught glimpses, technical readouts, energy signatures that matched his detector's readings, casualty reports marked sealed. 3 researchers dead in the last week, equipment failures, spatial anomalies. "Facility 226 North is conducting advanced research for Imperial High Command," she said carefully. "If there was a containment breach, You'd be the last to know," Banner interrupted. "Because whoever's in charge would hide it until they couldn't anymore. They'd be too afraid of punishment, too invested in the research, too convinced they could solve it themselves. It's standard institutional behavior. I've seen it 100 times. The officer's jaw tightened. Banner had struck a nerve. "Let me guess," he continued. "You've been getting erratic reports, scientists requesting additional security measures, strange energy fluctuations. And everyone above you in the chain of command is telling you it's fine, it's controlled, it's all part of the experiment." Silence. "It's not fine," Banner said. "And unless you want to explain to your emperor why an entire Imperial sector disappeared, you need someone who understands dimensional mechanics. Someone who's actually traveled between universes." The officer closed her datapad with deliberate precision. "The penalty for lying to Imperial intelligence is death. The penalty for ignoring this is extinction." They stared at each other. Banner's heart hammered against his ribs. This was it. Either she believed him enough to investigate, or he just signed his own death warrant and doomed millions in the process. "Lieutenant Marin," the officer said finally, addressing one of the stormtroopers, "prepare a transport to Facility 226 North. Combat-ready escort. If our guest is lying..." She smiled coldly at Banner. "Well, we can always feed him to the Sarlacc." Banner had no idea what a Sarlacc was, but it didn't sound pleasant. 20 minutes later, he was back in restraints aboard a military transport heading north across Tatooine's wastes. The intelligence officer, she'd introduced herself as Commander Reeve, sat across from him, studying technical readouts on her datapad. 6 stormtroopers and 2 death troopers, he'd learned that distinction quickly, completed their escort. "Tell me about your transformation," Reeve said without looking up. "The biological mechanism, how does it work?" "Gamma radiation exposure created a unique mutation in my cellular structure," Banner explained, deciding partial truth was safer than total deception. "Under stress, my body undergoes radical transformation, increased mass, enhanced strength, near invulnerability. And your consciousness. The creature, Hulk you called him, speaks. Limited vocabulary, but definite self-awareness." Banner shifted uncomfortably. "We're separate and not. It's complicated." "Most interesting things are." Reeve finally looked up. "You understand I'm recording this entire conversation? Everything you say will be analyzed, cataloged, and potentially used to replicate your condition in Imperial test subjects." The casual admission of planned human experimentation should have shocked Banner. Instead, he just felt tired. Every universe, every dimension, there were always people who'd weaponize anything, hurt anyone, in the pursuit of power. "Good luck with that," Banner said. "Smarter people than you have tried." The transport banked sharply, and through the viewport, Facility 226 North came into view. It was built into a rocky outcropping, most of it underground. Defensive turrets tracked their approach. The landing pad was surrounded by enough firepower to level a small city. And above it all, barely visible to normal eyes, but blazing in Banner's gamma-sensitive perception, was a distortion in space itself. Reality was folding, bending inward around a point somewhere deep inside the facility. The dimensional breach. It was worse than he'd feared, much worse. "We're detecting massive energy fluctuations," the pilot announced over the comm. "Recommend we abort and..." The facility's lights flickered, then went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in seconds later, bathing everything in red. "Facility 226 North. This is Transport Gamma 7, requesting sitrep." Reeve's hand moved to her sidearm. "Respond." Static, then a voice, distorted and panicked. "Containment failure. Evacuate. Reality itself is..." The transmission cut out in a burst of white noise. The transport shuddered. Space around the facility began to ripple like water. And Banner watched in horror as the dimensional breach expanded, a sphere of pure nothing consuming the facility's northern wing. Where the sphere touched, matter simply ceased to exist. "Get us out of here!" Reeves shouted at the pilot. "Can't!" The pilot wrestled with controls. "Something's pulling us in. Engines at full power and we're still—" Banner felt it then. The familiar tug of dimensional forces. The same sensation from when he'd first been pulled into this universe. The breach wasn't just expanding, it was active, hungry, and they were flying directly into it. Around him, stormtroopers checked their weapons uselessly. Reeve grabbed her datapad like it might save her. The Death Troopers just stood motionless, accepting their fate with soldiers' resignation. But Bruce Banner had one option. They didn't. One response to imminent death that had saved him more times than he could count. He closed his eyes, stopped fighting, and let the anger come. The transformation took 3 seconds. In the cramped transport, it was catastrophic. Hulk's expanding mass shattered Banner's restraints instantly, then continued growing until his shoulders pressed against the ceiling. The binders designed for human-sized prisoners exploded into fragments. Stormtroopers scrambled backward as green skin erupted through the borrowed robes, as muscles thick as cables rippled into existence. As 7 feet became 8, and Banner's carefully controlled demeanor became pure, primal fury. Hulk no like tiny flying box. One massive fist punched upward, tearing through the transport's thin hull like tissue paper. The depressurization alarm wailed. Equipment flew toward the breach. A stormtrooper's grip slipped, and he tumbled screaming into the red desert below. "Secure the prisoner!" Reeve shouted, but her voice was drowned out by wind roar and the transport's dying engines. The Death Troopers opened fire with their heavy blasters. The bolts struck Hulk's chest and back, leaving scorch marks that healed even as they formed. Hulk grabbed the nearest Death Trooper and hurled him through the hole in the ceiling. The soldier's scream Dopplered away. The second Death Trooper switched to full auto, his weapon's sustained beam carving a glowing line across Hulk's shoulder. The pain only made him angrier. "Stop tickling, Hulk!" The transport listed sideways. Warning klaxons competed with the dimensional breach's pull. Through the torn hull, Banner could see, no, Hulk could see, the facility below, reality itself unraveling around it. And somewhere in the back of their shared consciousness, Banner's scientific mind screamed warnings that Hulk couldn't fully understand. Bad thing, growing thing, hurt people thing. The thought crystallized into action. Hulk grabbed the transport's interior support beam and ripped it free. Metal shrieked. The entire craft tilted at a dangerous angle. Then Hulk jumped. The leap carried him 50 meters. He hit the desert sand with enough force to create a crater, his legs absorbing impact that would have liquefied a normal human. Behind him, the transport spiraled out of control, its pilot fighting desperately for any solution that ended with survival. Hulk didn't watch to see if they made it. His attention locked onto the facility ahead, onto the growing sphere of nothing consuming it. Something about that wrongness triggered instincts even deeper than rage. This wasn't an enemy. It was an absence, a hole where reality should be. And Banner's consciousness, still present in the back of their shared mind, whispered desperately, "Jump into it. Close it from inside. Only way." "Hulk, fix broken space," he charged. Each footfall shook the ground. Defense turrets swiveled to track him, opening fire with laser batteries that could pierce starship armor. The beams struck his chest, his arms, his face. Hulk roared and ran faster. The facility's perimeter wall was 4 meters of reinforced duracrete. Hulk hit it at full speed, and the wall exploded into rubble. Emergency klaxons blared. Stormtroopers in the courtyard turned to face the impossible. A green giant charging toward the heart of their installation, while reality collapsed around them. One brave or foolish trooper stood his ground, firing his blaster directly at Hulk's face. The bolt splashed across Hulk's cheek like water. Hulk swept him aside almost gently, not with rage, but with purpose. Banner's urgency was bleeding through, making Hulk understand this wasn't about fighting. It was about stopping the bad thing before everyone died. The dimensional breach was 30 meters ahead. 20. 10. Imperial scientists fled from it, their white coats flapping. Hulk saw one man get too close to the sphere's edge. The scientist simply stopped existing. Not disintegrated, not vaporized, but erased as if he'd never been there at all. Banner's scientific understanding translated into images Hulk could grasp. The universe folding inward, dimensions collapsing, the barrier between realities becoming too thin. If the breach expanded much further, it would consume the entire facility, then the settlement, then the planet. And across dimensional boundaries, it might even reach back toward Earth. Hulk smash into nothing. It wasn't really a question. Hulk understood what Banner needed him to do, even if he didn't like it. The green giant planted his feet at the breach's edge, staring into the absolute void. Inside, he could see fragments of other realities, impossible geometries, colors that didn't exist, spaces that folded through dimensions his mind couldn't comprehend. Behind him, the transport crashed 100 meters away, its hull crumpling. Survivors staggered from the wreckage. Reeve was among them, her uniform torn, but her datapad still clutched in one hand. She stared at Hulk's back with an expression somewhere between terror and fascination. "What is it doing?" someone asked. "Something monumentally stupid," Reeve whispered. "Or brilliant. Possibly both." Hulk flexed his fingers, took a breath, then stepped into the dimensional breach. The sensation was indescribable. Every cell in Hulk's body screamed as reality lost meaning. He existed and didn't exist simultaneously. Time ran backward and forward and sideways. He saw himself as Banner, as Hulk, as both, as neither. The gamma radiation in his cells, the very thing that made him possible, reacted violently to the dimensional instability. "Push," Banner's consciousness urged. "Use your strength, not against matter, but against space itself." Push, the breach closed. Hulk, not understand, but Hulk push. He brought his hands together. The dimensions between them folded. Reality shrieked. The breach resisted. It wanted to expand, wanted to consume, wanted to grow until nothing remained but infinite void. But Hulk was stronger than void, stronger than nothing, stronger than the absence of existence itself. His muscles bulged, veins stood out like cables across his arms, and slowly, impossibly, the dimensional breach began to contract. 30 meters became 25, 25 became 20. Reality reasserted itself one painful centimeter at a time. Outside the breach, scientists and soldiers watched in stunned silence as the impossible occurred. The green giant wasn't being erased. He was wrestling with the fundamental fabric of space-time and winning. "Impossible," an Imperial physicist whispered. "The energy requirements alone, nothing organic could generate that kind of force." "He's not organic," Reeve said quietly, her eyes never leaving the spectacle. "Not entirely. He's something else, something new." Inside the breach, Hulk roared with effort. The sound echoed across dimensions, traveling through realities where sound shouldn't exist. Banner's consciousness guided him, translating complex physics into simple action. "Push here, pull there, fold this," seal that. 20 meters became 15. 15 became 10. But the strain was enormous. Even Hulk's incredible stamina had limits. His muscles screamed. His healing factor worked overtime, trying to keep his body from being torn apart by dimensional forces. Green skin flickered between states of existence. Hulk, getting tired. Just a little more, Banner urged. Almost there. You can do this. We can do this. Banner, think Hulk strong enough. I know you are. That simple confidence, Banner's absolute faith in their shared strength, gave Hulk what he needed. One final surge of power, one last impossible feat. His hands slammed together with a thunderclap that shattered windows across the facility, and the dimensional breach collapsed to nothing. Hulk stood in a crater of fused sand, his chest heaving, green skin covered in sweat. Around him, reality had stabilized. The facility still stood, damaged but intact. Scientists and soldiers alike stared at him in absolute silence. Then the exhaustion hit. Even Hulk's incredible endurance had limits, and he just performed a feat that violated every known law of physics. His vision blurred. His legs trembled. Hulk did it, he mumbled. Stopped, bad thing. Banner o' Hulk nap. Long nap. He took one step toward the facility's exit, then collapsed. 8 feet of gamma-powered muscle crashed into the sand like a felled tree. And as consciousness faded, the transformation began reversing. Green became pink. Massive became merely human-sized. The Hulk receded, leaving Bruce Banner lying naked and unconscious in a crater of glass. Commander Reeve approached slowly, her blaster drawn, but not aimed. She stared down at the man who just saved her entire sector, her mind racing through the implications. A being who could transform at will, who possessed strength beyond any weapon she'd ever seen, who understood dimensional physics well enough to manually close a breach that had killed a dozen of their best scientists. The Empire could use someone like this, or destroy him before he became a threat. Around her, security teams moved in with containment protocols. Medical droids hovered closer, and in the distance, more transports approached. Reinforcements from the garrison, probably loaded with officers who'd want answers she didn't have. Reeve holstered her weapon and knelt beside Banner's unconscious form. His pulse was steady, breathing regular. Just a man in this moment. Vulnerable. Human. But she'd seen what lurked beneath that humanity, and she had to decide, in the next few minutes, whether to report him as an asset or a threat. Her datapad chirped. Incoming transmission from Imperial High Command. They detected the dimensional surge, the energy signatures, the impossible physics. They had questions. Everyone always had questions. Reeve looked at Banner's face, peaceful in unconsciousness, and made her choice. Banner woke to the hum of medical equipment and the smell of antiseptic. His body ached in ways that suggested the Hulk had pushed their shared physiology to its absolute limits. Every muscle felt like it had been individually beaten with a hammer, then reassembled slightly wrong. He opened his eyes to find himself in a medical bay. Sterile white walls, monitoring equipment displaying readings he didn't recognize, and an energy field shimmering across the doorway. A containment cell disguised as a hospital room. Classic. You're awake. Good. Commander Reeve sat in a chair beside his bed, still in her torn uniform, a datapad resting on her lap. You've been unconscious for 14 hours. My medical team says you should be in critical condition. Multiple organ failures. Cellular breakdown. Radiation poisoning severe enough to kill most species 3 times over. Banner tried to sit up, his body protesting. Yeah, well, gamma radiation and I have a complicated relationship, clearly. Reeves' expression was unreadable. You closed the dimensional breach, manually, with your bare hands. My chief physicist is having some kind of existential crisis trying to explain how that's possible. Tell him to look into variable dimensional constants and the application of kinetic force across spatial boundaries. Banner's scientific mind kicked in despite the pain. Though he'd need at least 7 years of postdoctoral study and theoretical. He stopped, noticing Reeves' expression. You don't care about the science, do you? I care about results. You saved this facility, possibly saved this entire planet. She leaned forward. That makes you valuable, Dr. Banner. And in the Empire, valuable things are either assets or threats. I need to know which category to put you in. Banner laughed, the sound bitter. I've heard that speech before. Different people, different governments, same conclusion. They always choose threat. That depends entirely on you. Reeve activated her datapad, pulling up holographic images, schematics of the facility, energy readings, and security footage of Hulk's charge into the breach. Imperial High Command wants to know what you are, where you came from, and how to replicate your abilities. I've been authorized to offer you a deal. Let me guess. Work for the Empire or die? Work for the Empire or be experimented on until we figure out how to replicate you, then die. Reeves' brutal honesty was almost refreshing. But I'm recommending a third option. Supervised collaboration. You help us understand dimensional mechanics and prevent future breaches. In exchange, you get resources, protection, and the opportunity to find a way back to your dimension. Banner studied her face, looking for the deception he knew had to be there. But Reeves' expression held only pragmatic calculation. She wasn't offering this out of kindness. She was making a cost-benefit analysis where keeping him cooperative was cheaper than forcing compliance. And if I refuse, then you become a lab specimen. My superiors are quite insistent. She closed the datapad. But I should mention, while you were unconscious, we recovered something from the breach's epicenter, something that survived the dimensional collapse. Something that's still generating energy signatures matching your arrival profile. Banner's scientific curiosity flared despite his situation. Show me. Reeves stood, gesturing toward the energy field. Can I trust you not to transform and destroy half this facility? That depends on whether anyone tries to shoot me. Fair enough. She deactivated the containment field. 2 death troopers materialized from alcoves Banner hadn't noticed, their weapons trained on him. But my associates here have orders to tranquilize you at the first sign of green. Understood? Banner nodded, accepting the medical robe a droid offered. His legs felt weak as he stood, but he forced himself to walk steadily. They moved through corridors still showing signs of damage. Cracked walls, burn marks, places where reality had bent before snapping back. Scientists and soldiers alike stopped to stare at him, their expressions ranging from fear to awe. The laboratory occupied the facility's deepest level, behind multiple security checkpoints and radiation shielding. Inside, a team of Imperial researchers clustered around a containment field, holding something that made Banner's scientific mind reel. It was a fragment of the breach itself, a piece of dimensional instability somehow frozen, suspended in space-time. Reality twisted around it in impossible ways, creating visual paradoxes that hurt to observe. And embedded in its center, like an insect in amber, was an object Banner recognized immediately, his gamma detector. Or rather, a version of it, fractured across multiple dimensional states simultaneously. It's phasing, Banner whispered, moving closer despite the Death Trooper's warning growls. Existing in multiple realities at once. The breach didn't destroy it. It transformed it into something that exists across dimensional barriers. The lead researcher, a Bith with an enlarged cranium, nodded enthusiastically. Precisely. We've been attempting to stabilize it, but the energy fluctuations are beyond our equipment's capacity to manage. It's as if the device is trying to communicate across dimensions. Banner's mind raced. If the detector was still functional across dimensional barriers, it might be able to pinpoint stable pathways, find a route home. But extracting it from its current state without causing another breach would require precision beyond anything these researchers possessed. I need to work with it, Banner said. Give me access to your lab equipment, your computational resources, and 12 hours. I can stabilize it. Reeve exchanged glances with the Bith researcher. And then? And then we'll know if there's a stable route back to my dimension. If there is, I leave and never trouble your empire again. If there isn't, Banner met her gaze steadily. Then we talk about your collaboration offer, but on my terms. You're in no position to dictate terms. Neither are you. Banner gestured at the fractured detector. That thing is generating enough dimensional instability to cause micro breaches every 18 minutes. Eventually, one will cascade. And when that happens, you'll need me to close it again. Except next time, there might be dozens, hundreds. He let the implication hang. How many times do you think the Hulk can do what he did today before something goes wrong? Reeve's jaw tightened. She understood leverage when she saw it. 6 hours. You have 6 hours, with full surveillance and a kill team standing by. If you make one move that threatens Imperial security, yeah, death and experimentation. I get it. Banner was already moving toward the containment field, his scientific curiosity overriding his survival instincts. I'll need a quantum state analyzer, a dimensional frequency mapper if you have one, and about 47 cups of whatever passes for coffee in this universe. The Bith researcher blinked all 3 eyes. We don't have a dimensional frequency mapper. Then I'll build one. Get me parts. Banner rolled up his sleeves, his mind already dissecting the problem. The fractured detector was the key to everything. His mission, his way home, and understanding why the breach had formed in the first place. Behind him, Reeve spoke quietly into her comm. Commander Reeve to Imperial Intelligence. Subject Banner has been granted provisional cooperation status. Maintain lethal force authorization, and someone contact Grand Moff Tarkin. He'll want to know we've acquired a potential strategic asset. Banner barely heard her. His attention focused entirely on the impossible device floating in the containment field, phasing between realities with each pulse. Somewhere in those fluctuations was a pattern, a signal, possibly even a message from whatever had caused the original breach. He had 6 hours to decode it. 6 hours to find a way home before the Empire decided he was more useful in pieces than whole. And somewhere in the back of his mind, the Hulk stirred, restless and suspicious. The other guy didn't trust these metal people, didn't like their tiny boxes and sharp instruments. But Banner had made a promise. They'd work together, achieve their mission, and get home. Assuming home still existed after dimensional barriers had been breached. Banner pushed the thought aside and got to work. Physics didn't care about politics or empires. It only cared about forces, energies, and the fundamental laws governing reality. And right now, those laws were bent but not broken. He could work with that. 4 hours into his analysis, Banner made a discovery that changed everything. The fractured detector wasn't just receiving signals across dimensional barriers, it was recording them. And the data it had captured during the breach event painted a picture that made his blood run cold. This wasn't an accident, Banner said, loud enough for Reeve and her observers to hear. He gestured at the holographic data streaming from the device. The dimensional breach was artificially created. Someone or something deliberately punched a hole between dimensions. Reeve moved closer, her military bearing tense. Elaborate. Banner pulled up the energy signature analysis, his fingers flying across the Bith researcher's equipment with increasing familiarity. Natural dimensional weaknesses show random fluctuation patterns. He highlighted a series of mathematical progressions that formed an unmistakable sequence. This is structured, intentional. Someone used technology to target this specific facility, in this specific dimension, at this specific time. For what purpose? That's what worries me. Banner isolated another data stream, and his expression darkened. The breach was designed to expand slowly enough to avoid immediate detection, but fast enough to consume the planet before anyone could mount an effective response. And look at this. He zoomed in on a peculiar energy pattern. There's a secondary signature hidden in the dimensional distortion. Something was supposed to come through. The Bith researcher's large eyes widened. An invasion? Or reconnaissance? Or extraction? Banner ran probability calculations, the numbers cascading across multiple displays. The breach I closed was just the first stage. There are coordinates embedded in the energy signature, targeting locations across your galaxy: Coruscant, Kuat, Fondor, major Imperial installations. The laboratory fell silent. Every researcher, soldier, and observer understood the implication. Someone had weaponized dimensional technology and aimed it at the heart of the Empire. Reeve's hand moved to her sidearm reflexively. Who would have this capability? The rebellion? Separatist remnants? No one in this dimension, Banner said quietly. The technology level required is centuries beyond what I've seen here. This came from somewhere else. Another universe where dimensional travel is understood, maybe even commonplace. He pulled up another data stream. And there's something else. The signature has a trace signature, like a fingerprint. I can track it. Track it to what? To whatever device created the breach. Which means we can find whoever's behind this before they activate the other targeted locations. Banner met Reeve's eyes. But I'll need resources. A ship, access to Imperial sensor networks, and freedom to operate without your death troopers breathing down my neck. Reeve's expression cycled through skepticism, calculation, and grim acceptance. You realize what you're asking for. Trust from the Empire for an alien who transforms into an unstoppable monster. I realize I'm asking you to choose between pride and survival. Banner gestured at the data. Those coordinates? The dimensional targeting was focused on military installations, research facilities, and government centers. Whoever's doing this wants to cripple your command structure, and they have the technology to do it. The Bith researcher interrupted nervously. Commander, the energy signatures are consistent with his analysis. If there are indeed multiple breach points preparing to activate, I know what it means. Reeve's jaw tightened. She tapped her comm. Commander Reeve to Facility Command. I need a secure channel to Grand Moff Tarkin immediately. Priority Alpha 0. The response came within seconds. Commander, Grand Moff Tarkin is currently in conference with... I don't care if he's having tea with the Emperor. This is a sector-level threat. Patch me through now. A pause, then a new voice. Cold, precise, carrying the weight of absolute authority. Commander Reeve, I understand you have a report regarding the dimensional anomaly. Yes, sir. Dr. Banner has determined the breach was artificially created. There are multiple targeted locations throughout Imperial space. We're facing a coordinated attack using dimensional weapons. Static filled the comm for 3 seconds. Then, put Banner on. Banner approached the comm pickup, acutely aware of the Death Troopers tracking his every movement. Grand Moff Tarkin, I presume? Dr. Banner, I've reviewed your file, what little we've compiled in 14 hours. You claim to be from another dimension. You possess transformation abilities that violate known biological laws. And now you're telling me someone is targeting Imperial installations using technology you conveniently understand. I know how this sounds. It sounds like an elaborate deception. Perhaps you're the advance agent for this supposed invasion. Perhaps this entire scenario is designed to gain our trust, access our facilities, and destroy us from within. Banner had expected suspicion, but Tarkin's razor-sharp logic was already several steps ahead. If I wanted to destroy your facilities, I wouldn't need an elaborate plan. I'd just transform and start smashing. I closed your breach, remember? Saved your researchers, your installation. A sacrifice play to establish credibility. Elementary strategy. Tarkin's voice carried a hint of something that might have been respect. However, Commander Reeves' analysis suggests you're telling the truth, which presents me with an interesting dilemma. Let me solve it for you. Banner kept his voice steady. Give me a ship, access to your sensor networks, and permission to track this signature. I'll find the source, determine if it's a genuine threat, and report back. If I'm lying, you'll know within 48 hours when nothing happens. If I'm right, you'll have advance warning before the next breach activates. And if you're right, you'll have access to critical Imperial infrastructure, knowledge of our defensive positions, and the ability to move freely throughout the galaxy. Tarkin's pause was calculated for maximum effect. That's an unacceptable security risk. Then let me offer you something in return. Banner gestured for the Bith researcher to bring up a specific data set. I've analyzed your scientists' research logs. They were studying the breach to understand it. Weaponize it, probably. I can show you how. Teach you the principles of dimensional mechanics. Help you develop countermeasures. Maybe even create your own dimensional technology in exchange for the resources to complete my investigation. The comm stayed silent for 10 long seconds. Banner could almost hear Tarkin's mind working, weighing variables, calculating risk versus reward. Commander Reeve, you've observed this subject directly. Your assessment? Reeve didn't hesitate. He's dangerous, unpredictable, and his transformation makes him nearly impossible to contain. But he's also brilliant, and I believe he's telling the truth about the threat. My recommendation: supervised collaboration with immediate termination protocols if he deviates. I concur. Tarkin's voice hardened into command. Dr. Banner, you will be assigned to an Imperial vessel with full security escort. You will track this dimensional signature under constant surveillance. Any deviation from your stated mission, any transformation without authorization, and you will be eliminated. Painfully. Am I clear? Crystal. Good. Commander Reeve will coordinate your departure. And Dr. Banner, if you're playing us, you'll discover that the Empire has methods of extracting cooperation that make transformation irrelevant. We're quite creative when properly motivated. The comm went dead. Banner released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He'd bought himself time, resources, and a chance to complete his mission. But he'd also just agreed to work for a fascist military dictatorship that would dissect him the moment he outlived his usefulness. Well, he said to no one in particular. That went better than expected. The Bith researcher looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Better? Grand Moff Tarkin just threatened to torture you. Yeah. But he gave me a ship first. That's progress. Banner turned back to the fracture detector, already planning his next steps. He needed to stabilize it enough to create a portable tracking device, analyze the secondary signatures more thoroughly, and figure out exactly what kind of technology could punch holes between dimensions with this level of precision. Behind him, Reeve was already coordinating logistics, selecting crew, preparing a vessel, establishing security protocols. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times, turning Tarkin's orders into actionable reality. "You'll depart in 6 hours," she told Banner. "Imperial cruiser Relentless. Captain Voss is competent, and he knows what you are, what you can do. He's been authorized to destroy the entire ship if you become a threat. Everyone's so trusting in this dimension. We're practical." Reeve's expression softened microscopically. "You saved a lot of lives closing that breach, Banner. That buys you something with me, if not with high command. But don't mistake pragmatism for friendship. The Empire doesn't do friends." "Yeah, I got that impression." Banner focused on the fracture detector, watching it phase between dimensions. Somewhere across those barriers was his home, his world, his life. And somewhere in this galaxy was whoever had created these breaches, whoever was planning to tear reality apart for reasons he didn't yet understand. 6 hours. Then he'd be aboard an Imperial warship, surrounded by people waiting for him to fail, tracking a dimensional signature toward an unknown threat. Just another Tuesday for Bruce Banner. The Hulk stirred in the back of his mind, restless and suspicious. The other guy didn't like plans, didn't like trusting metal people with guns. But even Hulk understood. They needed to stop the bad thing from making more holes in space. Together, they'd figure it out. They always did, even if it meant working for the bad guys to stop something worse. The Imperial cruiser Relentless was exactly what Banner expected. Massive, intimidating, and designed to project power rather than comfort. 600 meters of durasteel and weapon systems, bristling with turbo lasers, ion cannons, and a crew of 3,000 who viewed him as somewhere between lab experiment and active bomb. Banner stood in the ship's science bay, surrounded by equipment he'd requisitioned from Facility 226 North. The stabilized detector, now housed in a portable containment unit, pulsed with dimensional energy, its readings pointing toward the outer rim, toward empty space and unexplored systems where anything could be hiding. "Status report, Dr. Banner." Captain Voss's voice crackled through the comm, formal and cold. The captain had made his opinion of alien assets abundantly clear during their first meeting. "We're approaching the coordinates you provided. No anomalies detected on standard sensors." "You won't detect anything on standard sensors." Banner adjusted the dimensional frequency mapper he'd constructed, its jury-rigged components cobbled together from Imperial technology and his own theoretical physics. The breach signature exists across dimensional barriers. You need equipment that can detect spatial distortions in the 4th and 5th dimensional axes. Which we don't have. Which you didn't have. I built one. Banner checked the readings, his frown deepening. The signal was stronger here, but something about its pattern was wrong. The energy signature was shifting, adapting, like it knew it was being tracked. Captain, I need you to drop out of hyperspace exactly 3 million kilometers from the designated coordinates. Any closer and we risk triggering whatever's generating the signature. A pause. Are you giving me orders, Doctor? Banner bit back a sharp response. Military egos were the same in every dimension. I'm providing expert consultation that's keeping your ship from being torn into extra-dimensional fragments. Sir. Helm, comply with Banner's request. Voss didn't sound happy about it. But if this is some kind of trap, then the Hulk would have been a lot more efficient. Banner moved to the viewport as the star lines of hyperspace collapsed into real space. Outside, the starfield looked empty. No planets, no stations, just the cold void between systems. But the dimensional mapper told a different story. Banner's display lit up with cascading readings, spatial distortions forming a complex three-dimensional web. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist in normal space, and at the center of it all, something that made his scientific mind struggle to comprehend. It was a ship, but not any ship design he'd seen in this galaxy. Its geometry was wrong. Angles that intersected impossibly, surfaces that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It was simultaneously enormous and infinitesimal, close and infinitely distant. Looking at it made Banner's eyes hurt and his head spin. Captain, are you seeing this? Negative. Sensors show empty space. Banner, if this is some kind of... Voss's voice cut off abruptly. Then, with barely controlled tension. All hands, battle stations, unidentified contact bearing. Actually, I'm not sure what bearing. Tactical. Are you reading this? Sir, the sensors are... The contact is everywhere and nowhere. It's phasing through our detection grid like it doesn't exist in our spatial reference frame. Banner was already moving, heading for the bridge despite knowing security would intercept him. He needed to see this with his own eyes, needed to understand what they were facing. 2 death troopers blocked his path. Dr. Banner, you're confined to the science bay during tactical situations. That thing out there is punching holes between dimensions. If it activates another breach while we're this close, your tactical situation becomes an extinction event. Banner's heart rate spiked, and he felt the familiar heat building in his chest. So, you can either let me through, or I can let the other guy explain it to you. The death troopers exchanged glances, then stepped aside. The bridge was controlled chaos when Banner arrived. Officers shouted reports, sensor stations flickered with impossible readings. And on the main view screen, the impossible ship hung in space, like a wound in reality. Captain Voss turned, his weathered face drawn. Banner, tell me what I'm looking at. A dimensional ship, something designed to exist partially outside our reality. Banner moved to a science station, pushing aside a protesting ensign. His fingers flew across the controls, pulling up spectral analysis. It's using the same technology that created the breach at your facility. And based on these energy readings, it's charging up for another one. Weapon status? Ineffective, sir, the tactical officer reported. Target is phasing through our firing solutions. It's like shooting at a ghost. Banner watched the energy readings climb. The ship was drawing power from somewhere beyond normal space, siphoning energy from dimensional boundaries themselves. In approximately 4 minutes, it would have enough power to create another breach. And this time, with the Relentless so close, they'd be caught in the dimensional collapse. Captain, you need to run. Get out of here before the Empire doesn't run from threats. Voss's jaw was set. If we can't destroy it with weapons, then we'll ram it. Helm, full emergency power. Prepare for collision course. That won't work, Banner shouted. It'll just phase through you. You'll fly right through it and accomplish nothing except making it angry. Then what do you suggest? Banner's mind raced. The ship was partially in their dimension, but anchored somewhere else. To affect it, they needed to force it fully into their reality, which meant disrupting its dimensional phasing, collapsing its quantum state, forcing it to choose one existence or the other. And there was only one thing he could think of that might generate enough localized spatial distortion to accomplish that. Get me an escape pod, Banner said quietly. What? Get me an escape pod. Launch me directly at that ship, and be ready to fire everything you have the moment I tell you to. Banner met Voss's eyes. Trust me, Captain. I've got a plan. Your plan involves suicide? Not suicide. Transformation. Banner headed for the exit. 3 minutes until that thing creates another breach. Either you help me or you run. Your choice. Voss stared at him for 5 long seconds. Then, someone get him to the escape pods and prepare all batteries for firing solution on my mark. 2 minutes later, Banner sat in an escape pod barely large enough for one person, watching the dimensional ship grow larger in the viewport. His heart hammered against his ribs. Every survival instinct screamed at him to turn back. But the gamma detector's readings were clear. This ship was the source, the origin point for all the dimensional breaches. And if they didn't stop it here, it would tear holes across the entire galaxy. He activated the comm. Captain, I'm approaching the target. When I give the signal, I need you to fire everything at my position. Don't hesitate, don't question it. Just fire. Confirmed. May the Force be with you, Dr. Banner. Banner almost laughed. The Force. In his universe, he dealt with gods, cosmic entities, and beings that reshaped reality with thought. But he'd never encountered anything quite like this. Technology that treated dimensional boundaries as mere suggestions. The escape pod passed through the first layer of spatial distortion. Reality flickered. For a moment, Banner existed in 3 different quantum states simultaneously. Then the pod stabilized, bringing him within 100 meters of the dimensional ship's hull. Up close, it was even more disturbing. The surface writhed with geometric patterns that hurt to observe. Symbols in languages that predated language itself. And through translucent sections of hull, Banner could see movement, things that might have been crew or might have been something else entirely. Time to make an impression. Banner closed his eyes, stopped fighting, and for the second time in this dimension, let the anger come. The transformation tore through him like lightning. The escape pod's hull groaned as Hulk's expanding mass tested its structural limits. Green skin erupted, muscles rippled into existence, and when Hulk's eyes opened, they blazed with gamma-powered fury. Hulk hates spaceship. One massive fist punched through the escape pod's hull like it was paper. The explosive decompression should have killed him. Instead, Hulk's adaptive physiology shifted, allowing him to survive vacuum for the precious seconds he needed. He grabbed the twisted metal of the pod and hurled it directly at the dimensional ship. The impact was spectacular. Metal struck the phasing hull, and, for just an instant, the ship's quantum state destabilized. It flickered, caught between dimensions, unable to maintain its impossible existence in the face of pure kinetic force. That instant was enough. Now, Hulk roared, though in vacuum the sound traveled nowhere. But the relentless tactical officer had been watching, waiting for exactly this moment. Every turbo laser, Ion cannon and missile tube on the ship's port side fired simultaneously. The barrage lit up space like a newborn star. Hundreds of energy beams and explosive projectiles converged on a single target, the dimensional ship. Frozen for a crucial second in normal space, unable to phase, unable to escape. The first shot struck, then the second, then a cascade of destruction that would have vaporized any normal vessel. But this ship was far from normal. Its hull absorbed the damage, phasing partially out of existence to avoid complete destruction. But each hit forced it deeper into their dimension, locked it more firmly into a single quantum state. Hulk, floating in hard vacuum, watched the light show with satisfaction. Then he felt it, the dimensional ship fighting back. Energy lanced out from its hull, not a weapon, but a desperate attempt to create an emergency breach, to escape into another reality before it could be destroyed. The breach opened directly in front of Hulk. A swirling vortex of collapsed dimensions, pulling him toward an existence that would erase him from reality. But Hulk had closed one breach already. He knew what they felt like, knew how to resist. Hulk, not scared of, whole. He grabbed the edge of the breach, impossibly, incomprehensibly, his gamma-powered hands finding purchase on dimensional boundaries that shouldn't have physical substance. And he pulled. Space screamed. The dimensional ship's emergency escape route became its prison. Hulk ripped the breach wider, not to let it expand, but to invert it, to reverse its polarity. The vortex that should have pulled him in began pushing outward instead, ejecting the ship back into normal space with catastrophic force. The dimensional ship's hull couldn't withstand the stress. It had been designed to exist partially outside reality, to slip between dimensions like water. Forced completely into normal space by Hulk's impossible strength, it lost cohesion. The hull cracked. Energy bled from fracture points. And then, with a soundless flash that lit up the sector, the entire vessel collapsed into a singularity that blinked out of existence. Hulk floated in the silence that followed, his rage slowly ebbing. Around him, debris drifted, fragments that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, slowly decaying back into normal matter. He'd done it. Stopped the bad thing, protected the tiny metal people. Banner's consciousness stirred, proud and exhausted. Good work, big guy. Now we need to get back to the ship before we freeze to death. Hulk not cold. Hulk strong. I know, buddy. But the Relentless is moving away. We need them to pick us up. As if summoned, the massive Imperial cruiser maneuvered closer. A recovery team launched, wearing environment suits and carrying equipment designed for salvage operations. They approached Hulk with understandable caution, their weapons ready but not aimed. The lead salvage officer's voice crackled over suit radio. Dr. Banner? Hulk? We're here to retrieve you. Can you not smash us? Hulk considered smashing them on principle, but Banner's urgent whisper stayed his hand. Hulk, let tiny metal people help. The salvage team managed to get a magnetic tether around one of Hulk's massive arms. The process took 20 minutes and 3 snapped cables, but eventually they maneuvered him into a reinforced cargo hold large enough to contain him. By the time they sealed the hold and restored atmosphere, the transformation was already reversing. Hulk shrank, green became pink, and Bruce Banner collapsed onto the deck, gasping for breath, his body covered in frost that sublimated in the warming air. Someone threw a thermal blanket over him. Someone else muttered, "I'm never complaining about my job again." Captain Voss's voice echoed through the hold speakers. "Dr. Banner, your unorthodox methods are noted, and Effective. We've recovered debris from the dimensional ship. Intelligence teams are analyzing it now. Banner managed to sit up, pulling the blanket tighter. Tell them to be careful. That technology is dangerous. Reality-breaking dangerous. So I've observed? A pause. You performed admirably, Doctor. The Empire acknowledges your service. High praise from an Imperial captain. Banner would have felt better about it if he wasn't working for fascists. But he'd accomplished his mission. Stopped the dimensional threat, saved potentially billions of lives. And in the process, he'd proven to the Empire that he was more valuable as an ally than an enemy. The question was, how long would that last? The debris analysis took 6 hours. Banner spent that time in the science bay, wearing a borrowed Imperial uniform that fit poorly and smelled of recycling chemicals. His body still ached from the double transformation, but his mind refused to rest. The fragments recovered from the dimensional ship's destruction floated in containment fields, phasing between states of existence in rhythms he was beginning to understand. This is bad, Banner muttered, pulling up another spectral analysis. This is really, really bad. Commander Reeve had arrived aboard the Relentless 3 hours ago via shuttle, bringing additional intelligence assets and an uncomfortably keen interest in Banner's findings. She stood behind him now, studying the same data with calculating eyes. Define bad in quantifiable terms. The ship wasn't from another dimension. Banner isolated a molecular structure that flickered between 3 different quantum states. It was from this dimension, this galaxy. Someone here developed dimensional phasing technology, and they're using it to target Imperial installations. Reeve's expression didn't change, but her hand moved to her sidearm. You're certain? The hull composition includes materials native to this galaxy. Traces of Tabana gas, durasteel alloys, even Kyber crystal residue. Banner pulled up a comparative analysis. Someone found a way to bridge dimensional mechanics with your existing technology. And based on the complexity of the integration, they've been developing it for years. Maybe decades. The rebellion doesn't have those resources. Separatist remnants are scattered and broken. Reeve's mind was already running through possibilities. That leaves either a rogue Imperial faction or something from the unknown regions. Or worse. Banner highlighted a specific energy signature embedded in the ship's core systems. This power source, it's not mechanical, it's organic. Or it was organic and got converted into something else. And it generates energy through a process I've never seen before. Almost like it's drawing power from... The lights flickered. Every screen in the science bay went dark for 3 seconds. Then emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Captain Voss's voice burst over the ship-wide comm, tight with tension. All hands to battle stations. We have multiple hyperspace signatures emerging at combat range. Unknown configuration, unknown intent. Banner was already moving toward the bridge, Reeve matching his pace. The Death Trooper escorts didn't even try to stop them this time. Whatever was happening, it was too big for protocol. The bridge was organized chaos. Sensor officers called out readings, tactical calculated firing solutions. And on the main view screen, Banner saw something that made his blood run cold. 5 ships, each one identical to the dimensional vessel they'd just destroyed, hanging in perfect formation, their impossible geometries writhing with barely contained energy. They're charging weapons, the tactical officer reported. Multiple dimensional breach signatures forming. They're going to tear us apart. Captain Voss stood rigid at his command station, decades of military training keeping his voice steady. All batteries, fire at will. Helm, evasive pattern Delta 7. Communications, send emergency transmission to High Command. We're under attack by unknown dimensional weapons. The Relentless's turbo lasers opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space, striking the lead dimensional ship. The bolts passed through it like it wasn't there. The ship flickered, phasing out of normal space just long enough to avoid damage, then phased back in completely unharmed. Weapons ineffective. Tactical's voice carried the edge of panic. They're not even trying to dodge, they're just phasing through our fire. Banner watched the tactical display, his mind racing. 5 ships, each one capable of creating dimensional breaches. If they all activated simultaneously, they could tear a hole in space-time large enough to consume the entire sector. The Relentless would be atomized, and there was nothing conventional weapons could do to stop them. But there was one thing that wasn't conventional. Captain, I need you to get me as close to those ships as possible, Banner said quietly. Voss turned, his weathered face drawn. Dr. Banner, we've seen what you can do. But there are 5 of them. Even the Hulk can't. The Hulk can do a lot more than you've seen. Banner's heart rate was already climbing, anger and fear mixing into the familiar cocktail that triggered transformation. But I need to be close, within their combined dimensional field. Can you do that? It's suicide. It's the only option. Banner met the captain's eyes. Those ships are about to create breaches. If they succeed, everyone dies. At least my way. Some of you might survive. Reeve stepped forward. Banner, even if you destroy 1 or 2, the others will. Commander, with respect, I didn't ask for a tactical analysis. Banner's skin was already starting to tinge green around his collar. I asked for a ride. Captain? Voss stared at him for 3 long seconds. Then, Helm, full emergency power. Take us directly into the center of their formation. All non-essential crew to escape pods. This is not a drill. The Relentless surged forward, its massive engines pushing the cruiser to speeds it wasn't designed for. The dimensional ships didn't move to intercept. They just hung there, their breach signatures building toward critical mass. Banner made it to the hangar bay before the transformation took him completely. The Death Troopers stationed there scattered as his body began expanding, muscles rippling with gamma-powered fury, skin shifting from pink to emerald, Hulk smash space ghosts. He didn't wait for an airlock cycle. He didn't wait for decompression protocols. Hulk simply punched through the hangar bay's outer door, tearing a hole large enough for his massive frame. Atmosphere screamed out into vacuum. Equipment not secured flew past him. And Hulk leaped into space, propelled by leg muscles that could launch him across continents. The dimensional ships grew larger in his vision. They pulsed with energy that hurt to observe, colors that didn't exist, geometries that violated natural law. But Hulk didn't care about impossible things. He only cared about stopping them. The lead ship's hull rippled as he approached. It tried to phase, to slip between dimensions and avoid him. But Hulk's gamma-powered physiology existed in a quantum state all its own. When his fist struck the hull, it didn't pass through. It connected. The impact sent shockwaves through the dimensional ship's structure. Hull plating that existed partially outside reality suddenly found itself locked in normal space by the sheer force of Hulk's blow. Cracks spiderwebbed across impossible surfaces. And for the first time, the ships reacted with something that might have been alarm. Energy beams lanced out from the other 4 vessels. Not turbo lasers, but dimensional weapons that tried to erase Hulk from existence. The beams struck his chest, his back, his head. Reality flickered around him. For an instant, Hulk existed in multiple states simultaneously. Alive, dead, transformed, untransformed here. Nowhere. Then his adaptive physiology kicked in. The same mutation that let him survive nuclear explosions, cosmic radiation, and reality warping magic began analyzing the dimensional attacks, understanding them, resisting them. Hulk, getting angry. He grabbed the lead ship's hull with both hands and pulled. Metal that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space screamed as Hulk forced it to choose: exist here, in this reality, or cease existing entirely. The dimensional phasing failed under the strain. The ship solidified completely, locked into normal space, and that made it vulnerable. Hulk punched through the hull like it was cardboard. His fist emerged in what might have been a bridge or control center, a space filled with beings that hurt to look at directly. They weren't entirely physical, weren't entirely anything. They existed between states, their forms shifting through possibilities, but they could scream. That much was universal. Hulk tore through the ship's interior, his rage growing with each obstacle. Energy conduits exploded. Strange machinery that functioned on principles beyond conventional physics shattered under his fists. And at the ship's core, he found what he was looking for: the organic power source Banner had identified. A pulsing mass of tissue and circuitry, something that had once been alive before being converted into a living dimensional engine. Hulk stopped that heart. He grabbed the organic core and ripped it free. The ship's lights died instantly. Its dimensional phasing collapsed, and without the power source maintaining its impossible existence, the entire vessel began destabilizing. Hulk jumped clear just as the dimensional ship imploded, collapsing into a singularity that blinked out of existence. 1 down, 4 to go. The remaining ships changed tactics. Instead of attacking Hulk directly, they began creating breaches, small ones, tactical, designed not to consume everything, but to disorient and disable. Reality fractured around Hulk. He found himself existing in multiple locations simultaneously, his consciousness scattered across dimensional boundaries. Banner's scientific mind, still present in the back of their shared consciousness, recognized the tactic. They were trying to disperse Hulk across dimensions, to fragment him into pieces that couldn't reform. It was actually brilliant, in a horrifying sort of way. Too bad Hulk was smarter than people gave him credit for. Hulk! Back! Together! He roared, and the sound traveled across dimensional barriers. Each fragment of his consciousness, each piece of his scattered existence, heard that roar and recognized it as a rallying cry. The gamma radiation in his cells, the fundamental force that made transformation possible, acted as an anchor. A quantum entanglement that pulled every piece of Hulk back toward a single point. Reality shuddered as 8 different versions of Hulk collapsed into one. The dimensional breaches couldn't contain him, couldn't disperse him. Because Hulk's existence was predicated on transformation, on being 2 things simultaneously: Banner and Hulk, man and monster. He'd spent years existing in multiple states. These ships were just making it literal. The second dimensional ship exploded under his renewed assault. Then the third. Hulk moved between them with leaps that shouldn't be possible in zero gravity. Each impact forcing the ships into normal space where his strength could affect them. The 4th ship tried something different. It opened a massive breach directly in front of Hulk, not to disperse him, but to swallow him entirely. To send him somewhere else, some other dimension where he wouldn't be a threat. Hulk grabbed the edges of the breach and held on. The dimensional vortex pulled at him with force that would have atomized a planet. But Hulk pulled back, his muscles strained, his healing factor worked overtime, and slowly, impossibly, he began to close the breach from the outside. Hulk, strongest. There is. The breach collapsed. Coruscant was everything Banner expected, and nothing he was prepared for. The planet's city stretched to every horizon, billions of beings stacked in layers kilometers deep, the air thick with the hum of repulsor lifts and the glow of endless lights. It was magnificent and horrifying in equal measure. The ultimate expression of civilization pressed to its absolute limit. The Relentless docked at an Imperial military spaceport, its approach cleared by priority codes that suggested Tarkin's personal interest. Banner was escorted, the word marched was more accurate, through corridors filled with stormtroopers, officers, and officials who stared at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to naked fear. They knew. Word had spread through Imperial channels. The alien who transformed into an unstoppable monster. Who'd closed dimensional breaches with his bare hands, who destroyed 5 ships alone in hard vacuum. He'd become a legend in less than 48 hours, and legends, in the Empire's hands, became weapons or cautionary tales. The Imperial Palace complex rose above Coruscant's skyline, like a geometric mountain, all sharp angles and oppressive architecture designed to remind visitors of their insignificance. Banner was taken to a conference chamber deep in the military wing. No windows, no escape routes, surrounded by enough firepower to level a city block. Grand Moff Tarkin waited inside, his gaunt face expressionless, flanked by officers and scientists Banner didn't recognize. Commander Reeve stood in the corner, her hand near her sidearm, her expression carefully neutral. Dr. Banner, please, sit. Tarkin's voice carried the same cold precision it had over the comm. He gestured to a chair surrounded by scanning equipment and monitoring devices. I trust your journey was uneventful? If you don't count the part where I destroyed 5 reality-breaking warships in vacuum. Banner remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries, Grand Moff. You want to know what I am, where I came from, and how to replicate me. I'm not interested in any of those conversations. Your interests are immaterial. Tarkin's eyes were like chips of ice. You exist within Imperial space, utilize Imperial resources, and have demonstrated capabilities that represent either the greatest military asset or the greatest threat the Empire has encountered in decades. Your cooperation is not optional. Banner felt his heart rate spike, anger mixed with fear, the cocktail that triggered transformation. You really want to threaten me? After what you've seen me do? I've seen a great deal, Dr. Banner. Tarkin pulled up holographic displays, footage of Hulk's rampage in the settlement, closing the first breach, destroying the dimensional ships. I've seen power without discipline, force without control, a biological weapon that responds to stress with violence. Do you know what we do with unstable weapons? Decommission them? Precisely. Tarkin's thin lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. However, Commander Reeve has made a compelling argument for alternative approaches. She believes you can be reasoned with, that your scientific expertise, combined with your unique physiology, represents an opportunity for the Empire to advance its understanding of dimensional mechanics and develop countermeasures against similar threats. Banner glanced at Reeve. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. What kind of alternative approaches? Supervised research under Imperial oversight. You would be provided laboratory facilities, research team, and access to classified materials relevant to dimensional technology. In exchange, you share your knowledge and refrain from uncontrolled transformations that endanger Imperial personnel. And if I refuse? Then you become a test subject rather than a researcher. Tarkin's voice didn't change inflection. We have quite sophisticated facilities for studying unique physiology. I'm told the process is unpleasant. The threat was clear. Cooperate or be dissected. Banner's hands clenched into fists, green briefly flickering across his knuckles. One of the officers stepped forward nervously. "Sir, his stress readings are spiking. If he transforms in this confined space, then we'll all die." Tarkin didn't flinch. Which is why Dr. Banner is going to take a deep breath and consider his options rationally. "Aren't you, Doctor?" Banner forced his breathing to slow, forced the Hulk back down through sheer willpower. Tarkin was testing him, seeing if he could be controlled through threat alone. And much as Banner hated to admit it, the strategy was working. He couldn't let the Hulk out here. Too many people, too confined, too much risk of collateral damage that would cement his status as monster rather than ally. "Fine, I'll cooperate. On conditions. You're in no position to negotiate. I'm in the perfect position." Banner met Tarkin's gaze steadily. "You need my knowledge to understand dimensional technology. You need my cooperation to access my research methods. And you need me calm to prevent the other guy from turning this palace into a crater. That's leverage, Grand Moff. Don't pretend otherwise." A long silence. Then Tarkin's expression shifted microscopically. Not quite respect, but acknowledgement of tactical reality. "State your conditions." "First, I work with a research team of my choosing. No Imperial intelligence minders looking over my shoulder every second. Second, access to my dimensional detector and any fragments recovered from the ships. I need to analyze them without interference. Third, once I've helped you develop countermeasures against dimensional weapons, you help me find a stable path back to my own dimension. Unacceptable. You would simply escape. I would leave. Permanently. Which solves your problem of what to do with an unstable biological weapon." Banner leaned forward. "Think about it, Tarkin. I'm not from here. I don't want to be here. Give me what I need to go home, and I'm gone forever. No more risk. No more wondering when I'll lose control and destroy something you value." Tarkin steepled his fingers, considering. Around the table, officers exchanged glances. Commander Reeves' expression remained carefully neutral, but Banner caught the slight tension in her shoulders. She was worried he'd overplayed his hand. "Your proposal has merit," Tarkin said finally. "However, I have conditions of my own. Your research will be conducted at a secure facility of my choosing. You will wear monitoring equipment at all times. Any transformation will result in immediate containment protocols. And you will provide complete documentation of your dimensional mechanics research for Imperial archives. Basically, you want everything I know while keeping me prisoner. I want to minimize risk while maximizing benefit. Standard Imperial protocol." Tarkin pulled up another holographic display. Schematics of a research facility built into an asteroid. "This is Station Obsidian, located in the deep core. Isolated, heavily defended, and equipped with laboratories suitable for your needs. You'll have everything required to conduct your research. Minus freedom, of course." Banner studied the schematics. The station was a fortress. Turbo laser batteries, ray shields, a garrison of stormtroopers. and what looked like experimental containment fields designed specifically for him. It was a gilded cage with escape routes measured in astronomical units. But it also had everything he'd need to complete his research. State-of-the-art equipment, computational power, access to Imperial data on dimensional phenomena. And most importantly, it would buy him time to find that faint dimensional pathway his detector had picked up. How long do I have? 6 months. If you haven't developed countermeasures or found your pathway home by then, we'll need to reassess our arrangement. Translation: 6 months to prove his value or become a permanent test subject. Banner had worked under worse deadlines. One more condition, Banner said quietly. I want the Twi'lek, Nira, the Jedi Padawan from Tatooine. She helped me when I first arrived. I want her part of my research team. Absolutely not. Jedi are enemies of the Empire. She's a Padawan who's been on the run since your Empire executed her order. She's not a threat. Banner's voice hardened. And she's Force sensitive. If dimensional technology and Force powers are connected, and I think they might be, I need someone who understands both. Make it happen, or find someone else to study your pretty fragments. Tarkin's eyes narrowed. You're overestimating your leverage, Doctor. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, I'm the only person in this galaxy who understands dimensional mechanics well enough to prevent another breach. You saw what 5 ships did. What if there are 50, 500? Can your Empire survive that without me? The silence stretched. Officers shifted uncomfortably. Commander Reeve watched the standoff with barely concealed fascination. Finally, Tarkin nodded once. The Twi'lek will be located and brought to Station Obsidian, unharmed. She'll be monitored, and any attempt to use her Force abilities against Imperial personnel will result in immediate termination. For both of you. Understood. Then we have an agreement. Tarkin stood, the meeting clearly over. You'll depart for Station Obsidian within the hour. Commander Reeve will oversee your transfer and serve as liaison between your research and Imperial High Command. Try not to disappoint me, Dr. Banner. The Empire has limited patience for failed experiments. The threat hung in the air like smoke as Banner was escorted from the chamber. Outside, moving through corridors that felt more like prison passages than palace halls, Commander Reeve fell into step beside him. That was reckless, she said quietly. Demanding conditions, threatening Tarkin. I've dealt with worse than him. Not in this galaxy, you haven't. Reeve glanced at the Death Troopers flanking them. Tarkin is one of the few people even Darth Vader respects. If he decides you're more trouble than you're worth, then I become trouble before he reaches that conclusion. Banner's voice dropped. You warned me I had 48 hours. I'm using them. Station Obsidian might be a prison, but it's a prison with a laboratory. And I intend to find my way home before Tarkin changes his mind about keeping me alive. And the Padawan? Why risk demanding her? Because she's Force sensitive. And the Force is the closest thing this galaxy has to dimensional manipulation. If I'm going to understand how that dimensional ship technology works, I need someone who can sense things beyond normal physics. Banner paused. And because she helped me when she didn't have to, I pay my debts, Commander. Reeve was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're either very honorable or very foolish. I've been called both. Banner managed a tired smile. Usually right before something explodes. They reached the docking bay, where a military transport waited, its boarding ramp already lowered. Stormtroopers and scientists bustled around equipment being loaded. Banner's research materials, the dimensional fragments, and enough monitoring devices to track an army. Banner stopped at the ramp's base, looking back at Coruscant's impossible skyline. Somewhere in this galaxy, far, far away, his home dimension existed beyond walls of reality he'd accidentally torn through. Somewhere out there was a way back. He just had to find it before the Empire decided he was more valuable in pieces. Dr. Banner? Reeve gestured toward the transport. It's time. Banner took a breath and climbed aboard. Behind him, the Death Troopers followed. Around him, monitoring equipment hummed to life. And ahead, through the viewport, he could see hyperspace routes leading toward the deep core. Toward Station Obsidian, toward his last chance at freedom. The Hulk stirred in the back of his mind, restless and suspicious. Tiny metal people trick Banner. Put in cage. Hulk no like. I know, buddy. But we need their equipment, their data. Just a little longer, Hulk patient. For now, the transport's engines engaged. Coruscant fell away beneath them, replaced by the star-streaked blur of hyperspace. And Bruce Banner, physicist and monster, settled in for the journey to his gilded cage. 6 months to find a way home or become a permanent resident of a galaxy that feared what it couldn't control. The countdown had begun. Station Obsidian lived up to its name. A fortress carved from a dead asteroid, hanging in the deep core where stellar density made hyperspace navigation a nightmare and escape attempts borderline suicidal. Banner had been there for 3 months. 90 days of research, analysis, and slowly going mad in a laboratory that was equal parts cutting-edge facility and maximum security prison. But he'd made progress. Real progress. The dimensional fragments from the destroyed ships covered his primary workstation, each piece suspended in its own containment field. Banner had mapped their quantum states, decoded their energy signatures, and reverse-engineered approximately 60% of the technology that made them function. The Empire's best scientists had contributed maybe 15% of that understanding. The rest was Banner's expertise combined with insights from an unlikely source. The Force resonates with these fragments in ways that shouldn't be possible, Nira said, her green leku twitching as she concentrated. The young Twi'lek stood beside Banner's workstation, one hand outstretched, feeling the dimensional energies with senses he could only measure indirectly. It's like they're singing in a language the Force understands, but can't translate. Because they're operating on similar principles. Banner pulled up overlapping data streams, Force energy readings, and dimensional frequency mappings. The Force exists everywhere simultaneously, connecting all living things across space. Dimensional technology creates bridges between spaces that shouldn't connect. They're both exploiting fundamental properties of reality, just from different directions. Which means someone found a way to weaponize both. Nira's expression darkened. The organic cores you found in those ships, they were Force-sensitive beings, weren't they? Converted into living dimensional engines. Banner nodded grimly. The discovery had haunted him for weeks. The dimensional ships hadn't been purely technological. They'd been powered by Force-sensitive individuals, their connection to the galaxy's mystical energy perverted into something that could tear holes between dimensions. It was brilliant and monstrous in equal measure. Whoever built those ships understood both dimensional mechanics and Force manipulation at a level decades beyond anything I've seen in this galaxy. Banner highlighted a specific energy signature, but they made a mistake. They left traces. Quantum entanglement markers that point back to their source. You found them. You know where they came from? Better. I know where they're going. Banner pulled up a star chart covered in calculations. The dimensional breaches weren't random attacks. They were mapping expeditions, testing Imperial defenses while simultaneously scanning for something. And based on the energy patterns, I think I know what. He activated a holographic projection. A planet appeared, rotating slowly, its surface covered in ancient ruins and force nexuses so powerful they registered on conventional sensors. Korriban, Nira whispered, her voice filled with dread. The Sith homeworld. Home to one of the most powerful concentrations of dark side energy in the known galaxy. And according to my calculations, the perfect location to open a permanent dimensional rift. Banner zoomed in on specific locations. These ruins contain force nexuses that have been building power for millennia. If someone could harness that energy and channel it through dimensional technology, they could tear a hole in reality large enough to bring through an entire invasion force. Or worse, destroy the barriers between dimensions completely. Nira's force senses were clearly screaming warnings. We need to tell Commander Reeve. Get Imperial forces to Korriban before... The station's alarm klaxons wailed. Red emergency lighting flooded the laboratory, and Banner's monitoring equipment erupted with readings that made his blood run cold. Multiple dimensional breaches, opening simultaneously, all around Station Obsidian. No, Banner breathed. They weren't planning to attack Korriban. They were planning to attack here. Through the laboratory's viewport, space was tearing. 15-dimensional ships phased into existence, their impossible geometries surrounding the station in perfect formation. And unlike the 5 Banner had fought before, these vessels were larger, more sophisticated, their dimensional cores pulsing with energy that made the air itself shudder. Commander Reeves' voice burst over the station's comm system, tight with controlled panic. All personnel to defensive positions. We're under attack by unknown vessels. Dr. Banner, report to... The comm cut out in a burst of static. Through the viewport, Banner watched one of Station Obsidian's defensive gun emplacements simply cease to exist. Erased by a dimensional weapon that left no debris, no residue. Just absence where metal and soldiers had been moments before. They found us, Nira said quietly. Whoever's been building these ships, they tracked your research, knew you'd figure out their plan, and decided to eliminate the threat before I could stop them. Banner's heart rate spiked. Around them, the station shuddered as reality itself was assaulted. We need to get everyone to escape pods. Evacuate before... A dimensional breach opened inside the laboratory. Not large, maybe 2 meters across, but close enough that Banner could feel the pull, the wrongness of space folding inward. And through it stepped something that made both him and Nira recoil. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its skin flickered between states of existence. Its eyes were voids that swallowed light. And when it spoke, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Dr. Banner, the one who closed our pathways, destroyed our vessels, threatened our invasion. The being's form shifted, becoming more solid, more physically present. You have become inconvenient. Banner's hands clenched into fists. Green began creeping up his arms. Who are you? What do you want? We are the Dimensional Ascendancy. We exist across realities, harvesting force-sensitive beings to power our ships, opening pathways between dimensions to expand our territory. The being gestured, and 2 more creatures stepped through the breach. This galaxy is rich with force power. Your Empire's persecution of Jedi has scattered them, weakened their defenses. Perfect prey. You're using force sensitives as batteries. Nira's voice shook with rage and horror. converting them into engines for your ships. We are freeing them from linear existence, elevating them to multidimensional consciousness. The being's approximation of a smile was disturbing. But you, Dr. Banner, are something unique. Gamma radiation that allows transformation across states of being. You exist as both man and monster, occupying two quantum states simultaneously. Imagine what you could power. Banner's transformation was already beginning. His shirt tore, his skin shifted from pink to green. I'm going to pass on that offer. We weren't asking. The three beings moved with impossible speed. One grabbed Nira, lifting her off the ground with strength that belied its flickering form. Another lunged at Banner, hands outstretched to drag him toward the dimensional breach. They got about 2 steps before the Hulk fully emerged. Hulk, smash, ghost people! One massive green fist connected with the being attacking Banner. The creature's flickering continue form solidified involuntarily under the impact. Same effect that had worked on the dimensional ships. Hulk's gamma-powered physiology forced quantum states to collapse, made multiple realities choose single existence. The being screamed, then exploded into fragments that phased between dimensions before dissipating. The creature holding Nira released her and retreated toward the breach. Impossible. He shouldn't be able to affect us. We exist beyond physical. Hulk beyond everything. He grabbed the creature before it could escape and slammed it into the laboratory floor. Once. Twice. 3 times until it stopped flickering and started bleeding something that might have been blood in one dimension and energy in another. The third being was already fleeing through the breach. Hulk lunged after it, but Nira's voice stopped him. Wait, the breach is collapsing. If you go through... Too late. Hulk's momentum carried him into the dimensional rift. Reality inverted, space folded, and Bruce Banner found himself somewhere else. Not another dimension. Between dimensions. A space that existed in the gaps, where realities pressed against each other but never quite touched. And floating in that impossible void were hundreds, no, thousands of dimensional ships. A fleet large enough to consume entire sectors. The dimensional ascendancy's full invasion force. And they were all converging on a single point. A massive breach forming around a planet that Hulk recognized from Banner's star charts. Korriban. They were heading to Korriban after all. But Banner's consciousness, still present in the back of their shared mind, understood something the Ascendancy didn't. They weren't just planning to harvest Force sensitives. They were going to use Korriban's dark side nexus to power a dimensional rift large enough to merge their universe with this one. To exist in both realities simultaneously. To become unstoppable. We have to stop them, Banner whispered urgently. If they succeed... Hulk, stop! The roar echoed across the dimensional boundaries. Hulk, smash all ghost ships! But even Hulk understood the math. Thousands of ships, one of him. Even his strength had limits. Back in the laboratory, Nira stared at the collapsing breach in horror. Banner, Hulk, was gone. Pulled into dimensional space where physics didn't work, where strength might be meaningless. And Station Obsidian was dying around her. She made a decision. Grabbed Banner's research data, his dimensional detector, every scrap of analysis he'd compiled. Then she ran. Force-enhanced speed carrying her through corridors filled with emergency lighting and dying screams toward the escape pod bay, where maybe, just maybe, she could survive long enough to warn someone. To tell the Empire that an invasion was coming. That thousands of dimensional ships were heading toward Korriban. And that the only person who might have been able to stop them had just been dragged into dimensional space itself. The escape pod launched as Station Obsidian's reactor core destabilized. Through the viewport, Nira watched the Fortress asteroid tear itself apart, consumed by dimensional breaches that left nothing but void. She set course for the nearest Imperial installation, her hands shaking, Banner's data clutched to her chest. Somewhere in the space between spaces, the Hulk fought impossible odds against an invasion force that existed beyond conventional reality. And in the deep core's deadly stellar currents, one small escape pod raced toward help that might already be too late. The galaxy's fate hung in the balance, and Santa Claus, or rather, the gamma-powered monster who'd arrived in a red velvet suit, was the only thing standing between survival and dimensional annihilation. The stories that would later spread across the galaxy spoke of a green giant who fought between dimensions, of a being who'd arrived from beyond reality itself and stood against an invasion that threatened to consume everything. Some called him a monster, others called him a savior. The Empire, in its official reports, classified him as Dimensional Entity Designation, Gamma. But the truth was simpler and more complicated than legend allowed. Bruce Banner had come to this galaxy by accident, pulled through dimensional barriers by technology he was still trying to understand. He'd closed breaches, destroyed impossible ships, and made deals with an empire that would have enslaved or dissected him, given half a chance. He'd done it all while maintaining an absurd Santa Claus cover story that had somehow become less relevant as the stakes escalated beyond anything a holiday disguise could survive. And now, trapped between dimensions, facing an invasion force of thousands, the Hulk raged against enemies that existed beyond conventional physics. The outcome remained uncertain. The Dimensional Ascendancy's fleet advanced toward Korriban, their plan to merge realities drawing closer to fruition. Nira's escape pod raced toward Imperial space with warnings no one might believe. And somewhere in the void between spaces, a gamma-powered being fought with everything he had. Because that's what Bruce Banner did. What the Hulk did. They fought. They endured. They protected people even when those people would fear them afterward. Station Obsidian was gone. Banner's research was scattered. His mission to find a way home had been interrupted by an invasion that threatened both his dimension and this one. But he'd learned something crucial during his 3 months of research. Dimensional barriers could be crossed, pathways could be found, and reality was more flexible than most people imagined. If he survived this, if he stopped the dimensional ascendancy, if he found his way back from the space between spaces, then maybe, just maybe, he could find the path home. Until then, there was only the fight, the impossible odds, the desperate struggle against beings that existed beyond conventional understanding, and the absolute certainty that the Hulk, in any dimension, in any reality, would never stop fighting for what was right. The Empire would mobilize forces toward Korriban. Nira would deliver warnings that might save billions, and the Dimensional Ascendancy would discover that invading a galaxy protected by the Hulk, even accidentally, even reluctantly, was the worst strategic decision they'd ever made. Because across infinite dimensions, one truth remained constant. Hulk was the strongest there was, even when that had to be enough against an entire invasion.